Welcome to Success Breakthroughs. I'm Moira Sutton. Today's show is all about money. Our first guest today will show us one of the latest trends on how to make smooth, direct transactions, collect when your client hasn't paid you, and how to keep and grow your money. They have processed instant online debit payments for over 13 million Canadians. It's a lot of people. This is great news for the 30 to 40% of consumers without credit cards and those who do not feel comfortable giving online merchants their credit card number. The most sophisticated online banks and internet merchants in the world, processing tens of millions of dollars. As an entrepreneur, this breakthrough technology can help you increase revenues in your business. You'll also find out how a commercial law firm and a debt recovery company, what they have in common that will help your company prosper. And our success story. She will share with you hard, fast rules in financial planning for success. And as David Chilton said in his book, The Wealthy Barber, pay yourself first. I would like to first introduce Brian Crozier, VP Business Development, and Joseph Iuso, CEO from Use My Bank. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to both of you.
Welcome.
So tell us, first of all, a little bit about your background, just briefly, and then how you two came together and how you created this company and what it's about.
Go ahead, Justin. Okay. I was involved in the online payment industry for about 10 years. And a number of years ago, I met Joseph, and he had at that time told me about technology to leverage online banking. And at that time, online banking was really just in its infancy. But I knew from my experience in the credit card industry that there was a huge demand for people to pay cash and debit on the internet. And when I got together again with Joseph in 2002, he developed a technology for Use My Bank. And together we were able to leverage online banking on behalf of the sellers, the internet sellers, to accept cash payments from Canadians that have online banking. So today, with online banking growing from 8 million consumers back in 2002 to over 13 million online consumers now, our merchant base is growing, and as a result of that, consumers now have another choice to make payments on the internet.
So how you're saying, like, how did you create that? How did you create that technology? How did that come? Because again, as entrepreneurs, we're very creative people. Was there a spark that went off? What was that process? What did it look like?
Yeah, well, it was based on the fact that I've been in banking for over 15 years back in 1999, and I was going into a new company. They said, do some research. So we went and looked out there, and we thought, geez, there's a whole marketplace that's not being serviced by online debit. So we saw that credit cards were pervasive, e-wallets were just coming up, and nobody was doing debit. So we figured out a way to use the existing online banking systems and leverage them and put them together to create instant online debit payments for our merchants.
And what is e-wallets? Like, these are new terminology to me. I'm not an e-commerce person, so this, it's a learning curve for me.
Oh, sorry about that. E-wallets, there's all kinds of forms. PayPal's an e-wallet, for example, where you can actually load the funds into the account and then take the money and use it to purchase on the internet. So it's sort of like another bank account.
So that is one that's out there that's very recognized by individuals in business.
Yeah, that's huge. So that's really what an e-wallet is, and so we looked at that and we're going, that's not really going to happen for us anyway, and there was a lot of competitors already out there. And so we just took it and looked at doing online banking. So we went and did all the technologies, did a prototype, went through 1,000 days of no's from 1999 when we had the spark to 2002, always trying to see if somebody would take it on or help us do it. And we went through that, and then Brian and I joined back in 2002. He gave me the little nudge that I needed, and I gave him the nudge, and we both progressed through it and built the company, launched in December of 2002 with the hopes of doubling every month, to the point where we're now processing tens of millions of dollars a month.
So that nudge forward big time.
Yeah, that's my job.
Tell me about this prototype again. How did you do that? Because our viewers might think, well, what is that? And, again, the process of that, because we have people who are entrepreneurs watching, people who want to be entrepreneurs, and they really want to understand the creativity. And, how did you do that?
Well, sometimes it just takes going and doing something to see what the problem or how you're going to fix the problem or come up with the solution. So I've had a number of guys work for me over the years, and we put together prototypes. And so the prototype would be like, okay, do it for Royal Bank or do it for one of the banks, and see if we can get the process where we can actually get a real-time confirmation and debits coming out of the people's accounts. And that's really what we did. We had probably about 3 or 4 prototypes throughout the 3 years. and then at the end of it, we just put it together.
Yeah, when you look at a company like PayPal, which is extremely successful, and when we first started, we were actually called the next PayPal. PayPal was a company that was built with a tremendous amount of money, and at the same time, they leveraged eBay, which was an extremely successful website, and together they grew their business and was actually, the company was sold for $1.5 billion. Today, PayPal is one of the most major companies on the internet. And with Use My Bank, the main difference that we have, the luxury we have actually, is the fact that the consumers don't need to sign up for the service. So if you already have online banking with a major bank, you're going to be able to use your bank. With PayPal, you'd have to make the step of joining. And that's what the difference between a wallet and a direct payment is. So we've actually leveraged the online banking systems to make those direct payments so that consumers, if they see the Use My Bank logo at the checkout, they know that they can instantly make a payment. And if they don't have online banking, there's another good reason to get online banking, and we actually provide a link to those consumers so that they can go sign up at their online bank and come back to the merchant's website and make a payment.
Okay. Now, when I think about the Use My Bank and the process of, first of all, it's how long have you been in business together?
Since the company launched December 2002, so now we're in our fourth year, and the company's now expanding internationally because our whole mission is to aggregate and join together all the major online banks in the world on behalf of our online sellers who are international. So if you look at online banking being the fastest growing activity on the internet today, and you look at Use My Bank as just merely being a technology company that is joining together all the power of online banking under one button so that sellers who now accept Visa, MasterCard as their credit cards, and Discover and American Express can now have another way to tap into the hundreds of millions of people around the world that have online banking. And when you look at the buying power and the quality of customers, these are people that have computers, they have bank accounts, and they're online. There is no better qualified audience to do e-commerce business with.
So who is your target audience?
Our target audience are large credit card users primarily. So our rule of thumb is this: if you're using credit cards today from Canada, for example, and say your monthly volume right now is $1 million with Visa, MasterCard, you add Use My Bank, our sellers are telling us that they experience anywhere from 10 to 40% lift in overall sales. So if you're doing $1 million, you're going to be doing $1.4 million. And when you look at the volume of that money, that's all over and above credit cards. That's without paying any money for advertising. It's bottom end dollars. So it's a tremendous proposition to merchants that they cannot afford to ignore. The same way if you were a store today, and if you told your customers at the checkout when they're buying their groceries that you only accepted credit cards, you would be missing out on all the cash, all the debit payments. And Canadians have been proven to want to pay with debit. So we're just merely giving the same choice to those consumers on the internet that they have enjoyed at retail.
I wonder if it'll speed up those lines you stand in when you're buying things at stores.
Well, we try and do that for the online. Yeah.
So how are you marketing it? I know that Brian, you just came back from LA and you're down there in that nice warm.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it was actually down there. We work primarily with payment processors. So companies that are in the payment processing industry usually have relationships with large merchant bases that are using large amounts of credit card usage. So Use My Bank is a company that's not looking to reinvent any wheels. So by working with the large users and processors of credit cards, we're able to tap into that huge merchant base. So really our company is expanding not only here in Canada but around the world, and so we're looking for relationships with payment processors, more online banks, and just keep joining them together. And as a result of that, we operate in what we call the halo effect, where the consumer trusts the merchant. They know that merchant, so they feel comfortable making a transaction with that merchant. And if they don't feel comfortable with that merchant, then they're probably not going to be using credit cards with them either.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Because you are going international. Is it different in Canada versus the States versus over in Europe? Is there different reactions in the people you're working with?
Well, the technology worldwide for online banking that Joseph has developed the technology to leverage is very similar throughout the world. It's very advanced. So for our company, we're able to leverage most major online banks the same way that we are here in Canada. So that's basically...
Yeah, so from an international perspective, we're able to take the same technology that we use for the Canadian banks, and we can apply that technology to the U.S. banks, to the European banks, to the Asian banks, and on and on. So we've passed our first phase. We're now looking at that expansion and going beyond and finding our partnerships, and we've identified some partners, and we also have existing partners that we're working with to continue that bank expansion. Our whole idea is to add each country one at a time, make sure we get it all settled, and then go to the next country.
Yeah.
So right now we've got the merchant base that is international, it's large, and so as we add more banks on, we instantly add more customers. So if you look at a bank like Bank of America, for example, they have over 14 million online accounts. They have more accounts at one bank than all the major Canadian banks put together. But what I'm getting at is just by adding a bank, we're literally going from 13 million accounts to 27 million accounts at Wells Fargo, European banks, and you can quickly see how fast Use My Bank can grow.
So it's just the two of you on the team? Are you expanding with that team of people you're working with?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few people that work for us
It's a privately
now.
held company.
Okay. Yes. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, I'm pretty much the shareholder of the company. It's a privately held company. Brian's a partner in the company that brings in he's like the town crier. He talks about the company, brings it in. I'm the technology guy, so I bring in all the technologies and pieces and components, work with the partners, work with the companies that we're dealing with from a merchant perspective, getting them integrated, working with what we have is a reseller program as well. That's part of our marketing effort. We have resellers that have the relationships with all the credit card processors. So they go in and they do the relationship management and talking, because we understood early on that there was a chicken and egg scenario.
I always like that, but we're going to come back and talk about the chicken and egg. That got my attention because I never knew which came first. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to find out more about this new online banking. Stay tuned. That's chicken and egg.
This program brought to you in part by BDC.
The other one is privacy and anonymity. When you make a payment to a merchant, we confirm that payment. That's why I forgot to put that in there because that's a very big feature that people do because when you phishing is?
Yep.
Is it?
Phishing. It's an internet term instead of app use phishing.
The laptop, I'm going to shoot it over the shoulder so you can put it on your lap here, Amber. I'll zoom in on the screen and tell you if I can see it.
Oh, just to see if you can see it first. Okay.
Yeah. Because if you could just zoom in on that screen, this makes it. See, that's the key to what we've actually done. Is we've made it very simple.
Yep.
To do that, because if it's complicated, then people aren't going to use it.
Yep.
So the bank authenticates and validates you, and we make that payment.
I'll call you.
Yeah.
And if you get business from my contacts?
No, hold on. No.
Laurel, I've lost
You can be an affiliate. Just sign up as an affiliate, refer any business to us, and away you go.
Welcome back. We're here today with Brian Crozier, I got to think about that, and Joseph Iuso with Use My Bank, an instant online debit payment company. Now, just before we went to break, Joseph, you mentioned about the chicken and the egg, and that always gets my attention. So bring that into the analogy that you were using.
Well, most businesses have a problem with bringing in the clients versus bringing in the consumers versus bringing in the products. So they call that the chicken and egg. Which one comes first?
Which one?
Well, that's the challenge. So what we figured out with Use My Bank is the consumers already have a relationship with their banks. The merchants are already out there. If we can link the two together, which they're already there, then it solves both problems, because the consumers are already, out of the Canadian base, we've got 13 million that can make payments through us, right? And the sellers are out there, there's millions of them, so we just find them and plug them in as one at a time. So it's really, we've got the chicken, right? Or we've got the egg, which is the consumers. Now it's just going after the chicken, rather than trying to find both. And that's what most businesses have problems with, is both sides of it. And so we've solved one problem, and now it's just going after the other one.
I love that. I love that. It's great. Tell me, Brian, a little bit about like fraud and people worried about, the fraud with this and security to do with Use My Bank.
Sure. Well, online banking these days has actually gotten more secure. Lately, with double authentication, taking more steps, the Canadian banks are making online banking that much safer. And Use My Bank takes all the necessary steps to make things safe. But really, Joseph is actually an expert in fraud and has developed systems that Use My Bank to combat that.
Yeah, so what we've taken really is our systems are the banks make payments, or people can make payments through the banks, but it's not 100% sure that it's those people that are making the payments, because they could have been phished. And what phish is
And
where
that's P-H-I-S-H.
Yes,
It was a new word for me.
yeah. It's where the phishing. So I don't know why they called it phishing. It's bizarre to me too.
I really like it. It's a fish thing.
Yeah. So what happens is somebody is able to either take your user ID and password through a virus on your computer, or through a bot, or some other mechanism you've released your user ID and password, and then come through our service and trying to make a payment. So we've got an existing system in place that has 6 basic rules, and it takes care of looking at IP addresses, amounts, and locations. So if somebody's making a payment in Halifax and the account's in Vancouver, we go, oh, red flag. And so we identify it and then we follow up with it. And right now that's a semi-automated system. We actually have somebody that in the background takes a look at everything and deals with it all. In the new version, which is coming up in probably about a month or so, we've called it the Advanced Fraud System. We've got 26 rules, and it cross-references all 26 to give it a score. And then that score tells us whether it's fraudulent or not fraudulent potential. And
Sounds
then
very intensive.
Yeah, well, right now there's so many people signing up, using our service every day, and making payments that it's getting overwhelming. So we've got to do more automation and put systems in place that literally automate everything.
But you know what we're proud of? The lowest fraud rates of any payment company anywhere in the world. So if you're an online merchant and you're accepting payments and you have fraud's one of the most costly things that can actually destroy your business. Just a few percentage points of fraud can take out the margin. So when you've got a method for absolutely taking guaranteed funds from Use My Bank, it's a lot better than the check is in the mail or any other type of payment
So it
method.
protects the system, because we have to take the proactive measure to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with it. If we didn't do that, then people could abuse it and use it to their heart's content, and that's not what we wanted.
I was going to ask you that. When you're growing so fast in the company, and again, for entrepreneurs, that's sometimes, they're growing so fast and they can't keep up with it. They don't know what to do.
Well, fortunately, we had a plan right from the start, and we knew the type of volume that's out there today, and we know how fast it's growing. And Joseph, with his background being an expert in computers, was able to develop a system that's scalable and can handle the type of volume that we're doing today and into the future. So we're ready for it. And the other good news is that because we're a very automated type of a company, we're not very intensive on people. Our company doesn't need lots of people per se to do the work.
Okay. Now, you brought your laptop,
Yep.
Joseph, and they're going to get it on camera to just, let them see what this is about, the process. Maybe you can talk about it as you're doing it.
Yeah,
'Cause I
great.
can't see from this side, so I'll just let you go with it.
Okay, great. So what we've done is I'm taking a demo from our presentation. We're going to go through it for the Princess Margaret Hospital Foundation, which is one of the clients that we have on board. So the way they do it is you basically go to their website and you click on Ways to Help. From there, they have a form to fill out for the online donation where you have to put in your name, address, telephone number to get a tax receipt. So that's the way they work it. So you go to their website, you fill it out, and down there's options for debit and credit. So we're the debit option. They select debit, hit continue, and from there they get transferred to our page. Now we've actually branded this for Princess Margaret Hospital. Most clients are usually just using the inner circle piece. We've actually done the branding for them. They select their bank account. In this case, we're going to do Bank Montreal, and they agree to the terms and conditions. Okay.
It's a nice site. I can see it here, so I'm looking over.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you very much. We mimicked all the other payment solutions. If you look at most of them, there's an accepted interface for credit card and e-wallets and all that other stuff. So we pretty much mimicked the industry acceptable standards. Plus, we put on our own security on top of that. We've become PCI compliant, which is another term for Visa and MasterCard being secure. So anyway, they enter their user IDs and passwords and they hit continue. In the background, we go in and sign on behalf of the client and retrieve the account information. And then they can select which account, checking, savings, whatever they have allowed to make payments. Once they hit the account, they hit confirm. And in the background, we actually go and process the payment and get the confirmation number. From there, we can actually now tell the merchant, the seller, that the payment is accepted and that the payment will come in 2 or 3 days, but we've already got the confirmation for it. And from there, we issue it goes on to the online bank account, so it comes out in real time. And we issue receipts for both the buyer and the seller. And it's that simple. We've had guys set up in 15 minutes.
That's excellent.
Now, there's no excuse for any online seller not to have used my bank because it's free to sign up and you can integrate it in as little as 15 minutes and start accepting payments from all those customers who are just waiting for you.
Now, we talked, Brian, you were talking there at break in regards to people who can't get a Visa or can't get a MasterCard.
Well, there's many people out there, 30 to 40% of consumers don't have Visa or MasterCard. And there's also another group of people that don't feel comfortable giving merchants their Visa or MasterCard number. When we were talking before about the halo effect, some merchants on the internet, they may not give you that feeling, so giving them your credit card number makes you feel like you could be exposed. With Use My Bank, one of the nice features of it is that it's completely private and anonymous, so that when you make a payment to a merchant, that merchant only gets to know that you paid, not where you paid from or how you paid or any information about you. There is no information passed to the merchant, only the confirmation. And that's all the merchant really wants, to know that they're going to get paid, and that's what we do. We confirm it and get those funds from them.
What's been the biggest obstacles that you both had in creating this business and this whole union and what you developed? Because again, as entrepreneurs, we come up to obstacles. It's the way that we look at it. Do we reframe it and look at the positive, or do we, of course you went on and you're successful.
I think the biggest thing is changing mindsets.
Okay.
Because I was in the industry back in 1990 when they first came up with using your ATM card at these debit terminals.
Long time ago.
And everybody was like, what? I can't use my my ATM card at a debit terminal. I'm going to give them my PIN. And so it was a whole mind shift. Banks were promoting it like crazy, giving out free access. Here's your card. You don't even have to pay anything. Go on, use it. To the point where in '96 to 2000, or 2004, they did almost 3 billion transactions through the network. So the challenge is just getting past that, getting past the changing mindset, saying there is a new way, there is a better way, and that's what really we're about, is changing mindsets.
It's like, could you imagine going into a store and you're at the checkout, and just when you go to checkout, they tell you that they only accept Visa and MasterCard. They accept no cash and no debit. They'd be out of business. Well, many websites have that same problem. They're just accepting credit cards. They just don't realize that this option is available to them. So really, half of Canada has been left out of the e-commerce bonanza. And what we're doing is we're just saying, here's another way that you can pay. You can choose credit cards, you can choose debit cards, but at the end of the day, our advice to all merchants is take as many forms of payments online that you're comfortable with, and you're going to expand your customer base, you're going to make more money, more profit.
And how does your company, because again, we talked about this earlier, give back to community? Because for me, for a company, and it's part of the show, is that we all make a difference. How do you make a difference from your companies and your personal lives?
Well, from my perspective, I always like giving back into the internet community because I've grown up in it, and I feel like a child from the get-go. I've been there since day one.
I like that word, get-go.
From the get-go. So I've been involved in the Canadian Association of Technology and CATA Alliance, which is the Technology Alliance, and also the Society of Internet Professionals. where we give people the opportunity to learn from experienced internet entrepreneurs or internet people on things that work, things that didn't work, to the point where every once in a while I do seminars and presentations for the Society of Internet Professionals. With CAD, I participate in some of the discussions and trying to figure out how to set the new technology trends for the payment industry. We also get approached by the Canadian Payments Association and people within the financial services arena to give them an idea of how payments work in Canada and worldwide. So I'm always looking at associations. So
That's great.
That's one of the things that I like giving back is through the association.
Plus, we also, when we first started, we focused on the charity, online charities, which a number of years ago started accepting payments, online donations with credit cards. And I thought that if I would endeavor to make those types of companies aware that their support base could make online debit payments, that I'd be helping those charities literally increase their sales. So we've been fortunate to have great success there, and companies like Princess Margaret Hospital have seen the difference firsthand with their supporters.
That's great.
Yeah.
There's so many great causes out there. Princess Margaret's one of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years? Because in the technology business, you know, it's moving so fast and changes all the time. We have about 2 minutes left, so if I can hear that from both of you, where you see that vision of your company.
I'd love to talk about it.
Go ahead.
This is what I like to tell people, is that we are building the world's largest online payment company by aggregating and joining all the online banks in the world. For our international sellers, we believe, just like in the real world today, that debit and cash are the preferred payment methods. We believe that the internet will be that way too. And we cannot see another way where more customers can be under one button. So that's our goal, is to, excuse me, to try to join as many online banks together for the sellers. And in turn, we'll have most of the major online buyers out there too using our network.
So this year we have 3 activities. Number 1 is finding more partners for going outside of Canada and U.S.,
Okay.
expanding into Europe and Latin America, Asia, Australia. Number 2, our fraud and advanced fraud prevention system. We want to build that even more robust. The 26 rules are just what we figured out. Between the time when we actually developed the or came up with the idea and developed it, we have another 20 rules that we can use. So just keep robust building our fraud system and just keep building the network through our resellers and through the payment process.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I wish you continued success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much
Brian,
for having
thank
us
you,
on your
Joseph.
show. And
You're
don't forget
welcome.
to come to our site, usemybank.com.
Thank you. What does a commercial law firm and a debt company, recovery company, have in creating a new niche in business? Stay tuned and find out more.
Great.
Lots of information learning.
Nice.